KeithAndrewNetWork. The whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so prove them and still amount to something. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and this is episode 974. That is right, 974. Today, we have a great upcoming professional actress. She's done amazing things. Can't wait to jump into the episode. But if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, and all social medias, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification. You'll be notified with brand new interviews for up and ready and brand new content. So that being said, when we come back from the commercial break, we're gonna hear the recommendation video from our guests, and we're gonna jump right into our interview with the first question on icebreakers when we come back.
Hey everybody, I'm Emma Dowd. I have been seen on YouTube. I do a lot of entertainment, and I also have a lot of artistic stuff out there for you guys to enjoy. I've been interviewed by Keith Andrew on the Keith Andrews Network today. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will take advantage of everything that he brings forth with the guests and help you improve your life. And I know he wants to do the same for you as well. That's why he does what he does. So please check him out for future episodes, and check out this one in just a few minutes.
Alright, so we're here with Miss Emma, and welcome to the Keith Andrew Network.
Hey Keith, how are you doing?
Pretty good. It's a real honor and privilege to have you here on this wonderful network.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
No, the honor's all mine. The one thing I want to talk to for our audience who wants to know a little bit about you. You are an entertainer, a YouTuber, you're into paranormal, or actually paranormal investigator. Sorry, that was one word I thought. I was like, oh, you're in the paranormal, and you're also an investigator? Then I realized it's one big thing.
Right?
You're also an artist, and you're also a average dork. Well, well, I can relate to that, especially, I like a lot of things where people are like, well, you're really dorkish and like that. But with that being said, you have a lot of great contents, but you have, being an holy shit, I can't even speak. Good things uncensored. You mentioned there are so many great things that you talk about paranormal activities, you talk about being a YouTuber and an entertainer, and when I don't put my foot in my mouth, I actually think I'm a good entertainer, but you are your own worst enemy and you are your own worst critic. But I want to ask you about YouTube. Who inspired you to become a YouTube sensation, and how many years have you been on YouTube?
I've been on YouTube since about 2000, maybe I've been on and off. I've had a couple of different things on there. Mostly talk. I would use it like a journal, and I would do sometimes some just fun random things I would talk about. Then I started bringing celebrities. So I'm thinking probably I've been doing this since 2011. Maybe. And when I started off, it was because of the fact that I was in the art and entertainment industry. But I know it's going to sound, this is where I get my dork, my average dork. I love children's shows, and I've been watching, I just love them. I've always watched them. And I was watching a show called iCarly. And iCarly, obviously, it was a web-based show where they did performances, but I didn't have the ability to really do the performances. So this is where I brought forth a narrative. And what I realized is that with my own artwork, I would go to local radio stations and television stations and say, you know something, I have an art show. I would love for you guys to come out and see it. And I'd love for you to also be able to cover it too, just at least to let people know I'm going to be there. They don't have to do an interview with me. And they said, well, if you're not as big as Ansel Adams, then we're not going to have you. And I'm like, oh my God. Think of how many people have been completely shunned under the rug, just swept under, and never got that chance. And yet there's a lot of great talent. You don't have to be on television or in the movies to have great talent. There's a lot of great talent just right around us, but they don't want to give them the time. So that was where I started to come up with the YouTube channel, where I would do interviews with people. Most of it was before, I mean, a lot of this is before these video cameras came out. So it's like you had to have like a big camera to do it. So I didn't do as many of that, but I did do audio interviews that I then put like a picture over me, like a slideshow. And then it kind of grew into what it is today. And it's had several different variations. It started off as the Expressionist magazine, and then it went into the AME magazine, and then it went into what's now It's Emma's World. And I talk about a bunch of variety of things. I've had some great guests, from Tiffany to John Schneider, to Jewel and Mitchell Musso. Part of the I talked to just about everybody on Lifetime that you can imagine, and a lot of the people on Lifetime were on like General Hospital and Days of Our Lives. So I've met a lot of people there, and pretty much it just kind of turned into a really neat, eclectic thing where I talk politics, I talk arts and entertainment, I talk lifestyle, I talk about a bunch of different things.
No, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned 2011. I think I started the Keith Network, not the talk show, but the name, because you did mention iCarly, and yeah, who cares? It's a kiddie show. It was really funny. Of course, there were some things you kind of scratch your head at, and like, how did they get away with that? Or that's really sketchy, or that's kind of racist. But it's a kids show. Kids won't pick up on that. But there's certain things. But when they go to the transitions from one scene to another, it's funny because they show iMovie, and that was a big advertisement for iMovie, because they were using it at the same time when it first came out. So obviously, kudos to them for, hey, can we use iMovie? And it's a plus, because if you're advertising iMovie on TV, then other people who want to imitate, and of course, people have imitated iCarly with iMovie. It's great exposure, so you wouldn't say no to that. But like I said, there were some parts of iCarly you kind of question about. We can get to that in a little bit, but it was a funny show overall. Nothing bad about against it. You mentioned 2011, the KeithAndrewNetwork Network. I've been doing it since high school, so that's about, trying to think without hurting myself, 17, 18 years ago, I've been doing this. But over those years, it really expanded. Thank God for, technology involved over the years. Yeah. But 2011, I created the KeithAndrewNetwork Network. For an example, I'm a big wrestling fan. And so I would take pictures, Trish Stratus or Bret the Hitman Hart, and I would add like cool special effects to it. And it wasn't really anything like it is now. I was like, okay, let's just do it, and shits and giggles, have fun with it. But then I was kind of like, I want to take this seriously. And so I took everything down and I rebranded myself. Of course, the name KeithAndrewNetwork Network stayed the same, but there was no more fan-made pictures or tribute videos. It was saying, this is my work, and this is what I'm going to do. So, in a way, I'm not saying I'm an artist, but I'm like, you took nothing and you turn it into something. That's what makes you an artist, because you're showing your heart and passion of creating. And if you can create, you're an artist.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people don't understand that. They always want to say, I'm not good enough, or it's not good enough. But there really is no right or wrong with any type of art that you do. It's your interpretation. So yeah, it may be, a little bit more, rough and rudimentary. And then there are some that are so finely toothed and polished that it's almost lifelike. But that doesn't make one better than the other. And that's what people tend to forget, and that's why they give up, because they compare themselves to other people, and you can't do that. If the art makes you happy, then you are. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters other than that.
No, I agree. I like Jimmy Fallon. I like Bill Maher. And I used to like Bill O'Reilly. Long story about that, but long story short is he was a phony. But I did enjoy my time watching Bill O'Reilly, even though all the BS and bullshit came out afterwards of conspiracy theories or whatever. But the reason I bring it up is when I was interviewed on public access, I look back and I'm like, there's so many things now I wish I said then, but you don't want to be a carbon copy. As you mentioned, you do not want to be a copy or a ripoff or a wannabe or whatever catchphrase you want to use. You want to be yourself.
Yeah.
And being real, the audience, and I was told, and I've seen this in so many videos, the audience will know when you're being legitimate or when you're full of BS.
Yeah.
So, do you agree or disagree?
Oh, I totally agree. And, one of the hardest things to do is to be unique in your art. A lot of people do like to copycat. And that was what I was running into, was that I was into photography, and my work eventually got to go across to China and other places and other parts of the country and other parts of the world, from coast to coast here in the United States too. But when I started off, I realized that my work was good, but it didn't tell a story. It didn't tell me. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I did a little bit of evolution towards it. And when I evolved, I realized that there was beauty in the macabre. There was beauty in abandonment. There was a beauty in a lot of these things, and everything had to tell a story in some way, shape, or form. So it was really interesting to take the things that everybody else threw away as trash and turn it into artwork. And so I incorporated a lot of things, a lot of old abandoned places, and a lot of beat up pieces of equipment and anything else that I could find to tell a story. And what I was doing was I was literally taking some of my own nightmares, dreams, fantasies, and turning them into artwork. And sometimes when I took that nightmare, I emasculated it. So I didn't have that anymore. But what it did was it invoked a thought, and it evoked a feeling. And I think that was the most important part to why it was so successful, because it was very dark. But like I told people, just because you see a darker image does not mean it's a negative situation. It could also mean that it's a positive. You just got to look for the good in all bad. So that's where I came up with that. And it did make me unique. Did I take a chance? Yes. However, I would find out that doing that, I was more passionate about it than what I was doing before. So I was able to get more creative. And when I did that, it really took me to a whole new level. So what ended up happening to be one picture that started off of a dream that I had after my friend committed suicide, to that being a statement piece that was seen worldwide. And it's just a matter of just changing my perception and going for it. And it's okay as an artist to deviate. It's okay as an artist to experiment with new things and new textures and new feelings, because that's what makes you unique. If you stick to everybody else's and try to copy everybody else's, people lose you. Rap is a good example today. If you want to go into the music industry, back in 1990, 1991, 92, Snoop Dogg came on, you knew who Snoop Dogg was. When Tupac came on, you knew who Tupac was. When Biggie Smalls came on, you knew who Biggie Smalls was. Today, I listen to rap and I can't tell you who's who, because they all sound the same. And it's all the same style. Nobody stands out. And yeah, it's still popular, but it's kind of getting muddied down. And therefore, people are losing their identity. And that's not a good thing.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So the next one I want to ask is, when you started your YouTube, what are the do's and don'ts? Did you want to become an overnight sensation? Did you want thousands of followers? Where do you stand now on YouTube? Is that your main priority, or is it just a hobby?
No, it is kind of a main thing, because I want to express my concerns about what I see going on. A do is be yourself. Talk about what makes you you. Do what makes you you, and what you feel is exciting. What I would suggest not doing is, depending on your content, bringing in politics. Politics will ruin everything very quickly. Also, there is a lot of censorship on social media, and YouTube is probably one of the worst. There are certain things you just stay away from. Even if you are right, you could be taken down. I found that out the hard way, and I used my own experience, and they nullified me, basically saying I was crazy, and they took down my channel. So I had to start over with a new channel. At one time, I had over 10,000 followers, and now I'm kind of up to 500. I kind of just started it up a few months ago. It took me a while to get back on there because I was really disheartened by what happened to me. But yeah, you just be yourself. Now, when you're going to do anything with entertainment, one of the easiest ways to fail is when you do it for money and you do it for fame. If you do that, you're going to realize it's not going to get you that far that quickly because it's not authentic and people can see through that. However, if you do it because it's something that you're passionate about and you want to get a message out or you want to show your talents out there, it's going to fly so much better than if you try to do it the other way around.
No, absolutely. I am guilty of it, but I do want to become rich and famous. But I'm not the type of person like, oh, I need so many Mercedes, I need so many houses. No, when I become famous, pay off my rent, pay my health insurance, pay my taxes, and the rest of the money is my safety net. I don't need to, throw it or piss it away on these stupid mindless things like, oh, I have this $1 million yacht. Yeah, well, where are you keeping that yacht? In your backyard? There's so many things that, how do the rich stay rich? Because they shop poor. And I'm not saying I'm cheap or anything, but at the same time, I'm realistic. It's like, pay the important things. Pay your medical, pay your rent, keep the IRS off your back, pay your taxes. Then you can do whatever the hell you want. But it's stupid because people think they have millions of dollars and they want to do this and do that. And then they realize they pull the curtain out from underneath you, and then you have Uncle Sam saying, no, you owe us something. We gave you, now you owe us. But you mentioned one thing I do want to hit on is, are you a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fan?
I actually, I did watch them a long time ago. I gotta admit, it was a long time ago, and I haven't really watched it too much since then. But yes, I do know of it. I used to watch the cartoon more than the movie, but I did watch the movie, and in fact, I got to know Serena Vincent very well, and she was, I think, the Pink Power Ranger, and it's a fun experience to chat with her and talk with her whenever I get a possibility.
Hey, if you can put a good word in for me, I would love to have her on the show.
Sure.
Not to put you on the spot, but there's some reason I bring it up. It's not to blow smoke up your butt or anything, but recently, a lot of things. So this time of year, it brings out the best of you, and this time of year can bring out the worst of you, depending on your situation. So there is a number for people out there. I don't have it in front of me, but there's a number. If you need help, if you're feeling depressed, reach out, get a therapist, talk to a friend, to a loved one, because suicide is not an option. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. I was gonna.
It's a permanent solution to a temporary situation. That's the problem.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I'm just gonna say, if you think I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole. If you're living on the street in a cardboard box and you really hit rock bottom and you tried everything, I'm not saying you do it. I'm just saying it's a cry for help. But it isn't, when you do suicide, it's not an easy layout. You don't get a golden ticket, all right? You're not going to go to the pearly gates or whatever. When you kill yourself, you have to, if like with everything, people judge you. But here, right here, you have people that you can talk to. You have friends, family, there's so many people. Once you make up your mind in that decision, you don't know what's on the other side. And that goes over to the paranormal thing I want to talk to you about. You don't know what's on the other side, or if you're lucky. I know my grandparents' house was haunted. Apparently, there's a murder in the house, and there was a guy in there. My sister named the guy Max, and the guy was in the house until his time was up. Now, we don't know if he committed suicide or there's a murder. No one knew anything. We just knew there was somebody there. But the point is, if you need help, people are here to listen to you. You never take that chance of saying, you know what, it can't be worse on the other side, because you have no freaking idea what you're stepping into. That's my sense on that. But my last episode, I gave a little tribute to Jason David Frank, and he was the reason I'm not saying harping on it, is I actually reached out to Jason David Frank a couple of times about being a guest on my show. And when I found out that he did commit suicide, I, it bothered me. It bothered the hell out of me, because you never expect something from that like that. You always hear these quotes: "The happiest person, the happiest people, are the depressed, the saddest people. He has a bright smile, but maybe he's hiding his wounds." But the point is, be a real person, and if you need help, get help. But anyway, I don't want to harp on that, but while we're on, is a good segue. You mentioned you're into the whole paranormal activity. Yeah. So with that being said, are you a fan of John Edwards? And I'm not meaning John Edwards, the guy who had an affair, but John Edwards as in crossing over and connecting with loved ones.
I actually am pretty much of a fan of just about anybody in the paranormal, only because of the fact that they all have different experiences. As far as mediums and stuff go, I tend to take that with a grain of salt, only because of the fact that it depends on what you know before going in, or what that you give them. It can make it very suggestive, and a lot of times they do use open-ended questions to get the answer that they want that they can give to you. So that doesn't mean that they're not real, because I have seen some really amazing ones and I have seen some complete shams. But regardless, they do exist. As far as paranormal, I grew up in Southington, Connecticut, which was not very far down the street from the Southington Hospital. And if anybody happens to ever seen on A Haunting or the movie A Haunting in Connecticut, that house was literally about 2.5 blocks from where I lived. And the summer of 1988, when I broke my arm, I went to the same hospital to fix my arm as her son getting the treatment for his cancer. I used to drive by that house all the time on my bike. And so it was really neat, because when I would deliver papers when I was 10 years old, I would be driving by this house, looking at the front page of the paper that has the story about the house right next to me. Of course, it gives you like that, the hair on the back of your neck would stand up and goosebumps all over you. And that was kind of what got me really into the paranormal, and it kind of scared me a little bit. The other time was I saw a ghost at the Green Lady Cemetery up in Burlington, Connecticut, which was not far from where I was born. And me and my grandfather used to go up there all the time after school. It was a lot of fun. And I could never get a straight answer from anybody what was there. And when I tried to talk to the church about it, which I went to the school that was attached to my church, I tried to talk to the pastors about it, and they just completely dismissed me and said, basically, if you're going to talk about this again, you're going to get kicked out of here. So I really had nobody to look forward to or talk to about it, I thought I was nuts. And then in 1996, when I went up to my aunt's house, I saw a book that said hauntings in Connecticut. And I read the Green Ladies Cemetery story, and it matched my experiences to the T. I knew then I wasn't crazy. And this is over 50 years of experiences put together in a book. So I had kind of wanted to experiment with this and see what I could do and see if I could capture any proof, any truth of what I was experiencing and listen to people's stories, because maybe they're not crazy. A lot of the stuff can be explained. So I try to tell people that a lot of the orbs that I see in photos, I can easily explain it being a photographer, even though they don't want to hear it. But I'm going to tell them the truth. Now, my pinnacle of being a paranormal investigator is I started becoming a docent at a house called the May Stringer House in Brooksville, Florida. And when we were there, it happens to be one of the most haunted houses in the state of Florida. And I started to do the nighttime tours. And the nighttime tour is the ghost tour. The daytime tour is the museum. And I got scratched my very first day there during the daytime tours that I was giving. And during the very first nighttime tour that I was giving, I got scratched there too. Now, what was really interesting is for 20 years, I've been trying to take a picture of a ghost, right? And so we moved into the doctor's office. It was a doctor that moved into the area and built a Victorian house, gingerbread house in 1880. And when he moved in and took over this house, he built the doctor's office for himself. So we had just moved out of the war room, which is a dedication to the Confederate Army and the other armies of the United States throughout the years, and went into the doctor's office. And I was making jokes about our surgical table in there because it has stirrups for women giving birth. And of course, you have to be kind of like a typical guy and say stuff. So I had to say stuff back. Well, his wife walks in and with her camera, just her cell phone, just took a picture without flash. Then I hear her say, "Oh my God." And she takes another picture. She saw it with her own eyes. She caught a full-bodied soldier apparition feet from my back, maybe 2 to 3 feet from my back. And I have that picture today, and it means something to me because that was my tour that night. I was giving this tour. This ghost was literally feet from me. It was the first time I saw a physical, recognizable, and indistinguishable entity inside of a photograph that I have ever seen. And I love working there. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. I've seen a lot of weird things happen. So I honestly cannot say that the paranormal does not exist because I see too much evidence to show that it does. Now, what is it? I don't know. You know, is it a spirit? I don't know. Is it like a projector going over and over and over again? I don't know. But it's interesting nonetheless.
No, absolutely. I do have some great ideas I want to talk to you about. I actually have a picture I want to show you about 2010, 11, 12, a couple of years ago. How do you feel now, and would you recommend it to other people?
I always like to give opportunities to everything because you never know who's going to listen. You never know whose life you're going to touch. So I always say that it's always worth talking to just about anybody that wants to talk. You know, your experience could influence me. My experience can influence you and change our lives. So I definitely wanted to do it. I'm sorry it's taken me a little bit of time because I have been kind of jumbled up with work and stuff like that. But I'm glad I did do it, yes. And I would recommend this for anybody else.
No, absolutely. And on the Keith Network, we have people with learning disabilities, people without. The one thing I can't stress the most, you don't have to have a disability to be a guest on my show. I have interviewed actors, actresses, writers, CEOs, people with, people without learning disabilities and disabilities. Just the fact you're taking the time to be a guest on my show, to have a normal conversation, and to support me, someone who does have a disability. If you're supporting me with my message and my, mental illness or whatever, then if I can do it, I'm turning myself into an example for anyone out there. You can do it too. The labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. You just need the right people and the right support system. With that being said, this will be played on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're watching, please leave a comment or any ideas for my next episode. Subscribe so you will be notified when the next episode is up and ready. So that being said, our goal is 1,000 episodes. Once we get to 1,000, we will probably go live on Instagram to see and interact with all our different audiences. So many things we're working on. Our next episode coming up in a couple of weeks will be a Christmas episode. Trying to debate if I want to have it in December or in the new year. Either way, the Christmas episode will be in the next couple of weeks. So make sure to like and subscribe on that. Well, wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. Now until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.